Oh yeah, you're gonna have to lock that in. I'm gonna get a new one because you're having too much controversy about that. See, the problem is that was my old one, and that mic is way too heavy than the other mic that I had on there.
Yeah,
it's old. I'll get you a new one, Mike. How's that?
Okay, I'll feel better. No, it's working.
I know, but
I just need to bring some duct tape in here. Duct tape fixes everything.
You ever heard of speed tape?
Speed tape.
Speed tape is what they put on the wing of an airplane when like they have a little imperfection on the wing. My neighbor's a pilot. And I was doing a story on it on another podcast, and they do speed tape, and it's basically a real thick glue that's on there, but the outside looks like, duct tape. It's got the fibers and stuff in it. So it's called speed tape.
Okay. No, I don't know about speed tape.
Well, now you do.
You know what a fortnight is, right?
It's 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I learned that from Kiwi culture.
How did Kiwi culture? Well, how did you use Fortnite in Kiwi culture?
Well, see, my buddy would talk about something. He said, "Oh, we'll get that done. It'll be about a fortnight."
So you just knew it was 2 weeks.
And I was like, "What do you mean? 14 nights?"
Yeah,
fortnight. 14 nights. It's 2 weeks.
It's not the game that all the kids are playing.
No. No.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out to know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take
move
behind
it?
the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of
I'm
this
not sure
training.
where I want it.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the best podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's show, last week we talked about the hind or the front limb of a horse. Now we are going to talk about the hind limb and what's unique about it. Also, a case study about a horse named Tidal Wave. And also, what is the British system, Paddocks Paradise, and what we call the track system, and what does it mean? All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing okay. How about this weather we've been having? A little cold snap?
I'm liking it.
Are you? You got your long flannel shirt on?
It's starting to get flannel weather. Flannel weather's perfect.
My dad, being from Florida, I walk around the house in like fleece pants, early in the morning, my day or my house pants. And he's like, "Where'd you get those?" I'm like, we live in North Carolina, Dad. You got to get these pants. So you should see him. He's got like these fleece pants that are like camouflage, and they got like pockets on the side.
So you can't tell where he is.
No, he's totally camouflaged in the house. So, Mike, what's been going on with you?
Well, I've been doing more work with the vet clinics. Tuesday, I spent the day at Greenock Veterinary Hospital. This afternoon, I'm meeting Sean, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Murrow. I'll butcher everybody's name and make them up as I go. It's close. He is a podiatry vet from Rood and Riddle based out of Aiken, South Carolina. He's coming up here. We've been working back and forth a case together, so we're going to work together in person today.
Nice.
Tomorrow we'll be at Top Gun Veterinary Hospital with Dr. T down in Rock Hill.
And we're still trying to get Dr. T on the show since the last time she kind of stood us up on the
well,
one show.
somebody's got a colicky horse. You got to deal with what's important.
That's definitely,
and we're not.
That is first priority, and we are basically down on the list. So hopefully we can get her back on the show here coming up on season 4. Wrapping up season 3 here in the next couple shows. Season 4, we're going to take a 2-week break, and then we'll come back with season 4 with all new guests and all new topics. And Mike's going to get a little bit more into the picturesque part of the podcast. And today we have a bunch of pictures as well. So if you haven't joined us on YouTube yet, now's a great chance to go on there and subscribe to us on YouTube, because Mike is bringing a little bit more of a visual element into the studio, and you can see what we're talking about as we're talking about it here on the podcast as well.
Yeah, this horse we're showing on the podcast we used at the Hoof Care Summit in 2020, and I've used it at a number of clinics over the years just to get some points across as far as paying attention to looking at your horse, and we're going to be working some of that into the program more and more as we go.
Yeah. So what else has been going on this week? You've been behaving yourself?
Well, I retired. I put new tires on the truck.
Okay.
and I got 19.5s on there, so I have 14 ply heavy sidewalls, and price of tires has gone up.
Everything's gone up, Mike.
Yeah. I can't afford to retire again.
Not for how often do you change the tires, and how many miles do you put on your truck doing all the clinics and all the servicing that you do?
I ran 43,000 last year.
Jesus. And that's all here in the Charlotte, North Carolina, South Carolina area.
A lot of it, yeah.
Do you do any in Virginia and North Georgia?
I have been to Virginia, North Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, you name it. We've probably been there.
I think you got a song there somewhere. I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes we get on the Big Bird. When I was doing the running horse, I got on the Big Bird a lot.
What's the Big Bird?
Aeroplane.
Oh, okay. You and your fancy terminology. Anything else going on?
That's it. Just getting ready for winter horses coming down, and whatever vet calls we get. And just keeping on,
Now, I was telling you, I was bush hogging the front pasture here, getting ready to reseed it for the next spring coming up, and I sheared the bolt off on the gearbox system. So I'm going to get a new bolt for that and continue bush hogging that front pasture and lay my seed down. Now, what I'm laying down is tall fescue in that front pasture. Is that good or bad?
It grows around here.
Okay, yes.
Fescue is not the ideal feed for a horse, but we're in that part of the country where in our cooler weathers we get a lot of fescue, and it is what we can plant here for your laminated horses, brood mares, stuff like that. Of course, there can be some problem with endotoxins.
So what should I plant out there in that field? Just a Heinz 57, Bermuda grass, Bahia grass? I'm not sure. Now, sometimes I'll go to like your southern states or Tractor Supply, and I'll see something that says pasture grass.
Right.
Is that my pasture grass, or is that like donkey pasture grass?
Do you have a donkey?
I don't have a donkey.
Well, it's not for the donkey.
Well, I'm just saying, is it good enough for my horse, or is it just good enough for the donkeys or the cattle that run across the open range here?
I would think it would be okay for horses. I don't know what their mix is.
Yeah.
And it's if you have a mixed pasture grass, it's going to vary depending on what part of the country you're in on what will grow well.
So what would be an ideal grass for my location in this area? We're just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a beautiful little town we like to call Marshville. What's an ideal grass that I should be putting down or keep down this time of year?
Well, the ideal grass at my house seems to be whatever grows. In the shady areas, one thing grows, and the full sun areas, another thing grows. And during the hot months, the Bermudas come up. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's whatever's growing that time of year. Just what do you say? Use the weight tape all the time.
Use your weight tape. Keep your horse exercised. Keep them fit. Just like us. If we're slugs and we sit there and eat a lot of cheesecake.
Mike, because of Halloween coming up, I spent all day just snacking on Snickers bar and not full length. I'm talking the snack size Snickers bar all day.
Well,
yesterday.
If you have enough of them, they add up to a full length, now don't they?
Usually 3 does that. All right, guys, stick around. We got a big show to get into, lots to talk about, and make sure if you're not on the YouTube channel, this would be a great show, great opportunity for you to get on that as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I got some more stuff to tell you about that YouTube channel as well, some stuff we put up there. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine and you'd like us to read it here on the air, the way you do that is go over to equinedynamics.com. Make sure you fill out that little form that says contact and get your questions right over. Make sure you put podcast in the subject line, and we will answer your question right here on the air. And don't forget to put a return address as well, so Mike can send you out some magnets, some stickers. He's got some keychains. I've been sporting my keychain around. Actually, someone noticed it the other day. I was at Southern States and like, oh, Equine Dynamics, I listen to that show. I'm like, yeah. I didn't want to say who I was. I'm like, oh, yeah, I like it too. Thumbs up. So that's there. Also, don't forget on the YouTube channel, I teased this earlier, on the YouTube channel, there are 3 short little videos up there. I think they're about maybe 10 minutes each in length. It's an audio CD that was we just put pictures behind it. It is an audio tracks, 3 audio tracks as far as Ray Morris.
Yes.
And him being a saddle fitter. So if you want to check that out as well, make sure you go to YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, and tell me a little bit more, tell our audience a little bit more about those 3 videos that are up there about Ray Morrison being a saddle fitter.
Well, the saddle fitting deal was, Ray did it was recording, but Ray did it the reason why. And
that's the name of the CD.
Yes, that's the name of the CD, and we have put it up because now CDs are obsolete, and this way the public can listen to Ray's opinion on saddles. Ray was a massage therapist and saddle fitter, so that brings something a little different into the saddle fitting deal. And he was totally blind, so it was 100% feel. And working with Ray over the years, boy, as far as finding stuff going on with a horse, it was incredible what the guy could pick up on, how quick.
So you can see or you can listen to all that over at the YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe over there as well. Now, Mike, we're going to talk about, last week we talked about the front end of a horse, the one leg's longer than the other. Now we're going to talk about the hind limb of the horse and what's so unique about that as well.
Right. That's another one of those deals. People are like, oh my God, my horse has a short leg on one side, and has to do with sometimes flexion of the joints. And it's not necessarily short leg. I like to think more strong side, weak side.
Okay, but before we get started, this is my idea. Okay, so the front leg is essentially the way our leg moves, our human leg moves.
Right.
The knees in the front, and it's got the pivot, the ankle. Does it really have an ankle?
No.
Not by human definition.
The true ankle is the hock of the horse in the back end, but the hind leg, the way it flexes, works more like a chicken leg.
I was just going to say, so, and the back legs are more of a bird or
right.
Okay.
It's like Jerry Starnes, an old farrier. It's just hard for people to figure out how that chicken leg works. And over the years, I've watched it, and it's like, the old fellow was onto something.
All right, so describe what we're looking at as far as the hind limb. Now, do you have pictures for this?
We had a picture of Dolly's hind legs.
Okay, I can pull that up here.
That's not Dolly.
No, that's not Dolly.
That's not Dolly. That's not Dolly. There's Dolly.
That's me in the hot tub.
That's you in the hot tub.
All right, let me see.
Yeah, we didn't want to see that.
All right, there we go.
Okay. When you're looking at the hind legs, and remember the stay apparatus that ties in between the hock and the stifle joint, they don't normally bend independent of each other because of tendon ligament connections. And when you're looking at the horse's hip and you've got a hip dropped on one side, you can have a couple of things going on. Okay, if you stand relaxed and you cock one toe out, what happens to that whole bone column, lattice bone? You know what happens to your hip?
It kind of sags down and you got like a droopy butt.
Right, exactly. Sometimes that's what our horses are doing. Sometimes if you got a balance problem afoot, a sheared heel or something, it will rotate that limb out. If you look at the hip socket is kind of a loose ball and socket joint, so it can rotate in, rotate out easily right there. And we're not necessarily twisting the lower joints. It's just the whole limb turns all the way up to the hip.
Now, how do you know if the horse is just doing it to be lazy or that's its normal stance? Like if you tell a child, like a 5-year-old child, stand up straight. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. I've heard it 2 million times. Stand up straight, put your feet together. Can you tell a horse or get a horse to go stand up straight, put your feet together? To where they understand it and
talk to the quarter horse halter people about that.
Okay.
Yes, they can. Most people don't.
All right.
But, if you got one leg that's cocked out, you can have a hoof balance problem, a sheared heel, lateral distortion, something like that. And, most horses will stand in a lazy way. They can relax. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
You do it, don't you, Travis?
I do all the time.
You don't stand in attention constantly, most of the time, but not all the time.
Very rarely.
But if you got that rotation, as soon as you see that horse just take a step, you can see that leg catch, foot rotate, and as they come through, it rotates back. And you get a twisting action in the hock. So that tells me right off, I've got a medial lateral pressure problem, and I need to deal with that in my trim. The other thing is, when you're looking at the leg, think about the palmar angle. We keep talking about palmar angle. Or plantar angle in the back end would be more of the true statement of what it is, between the angle between the bottom of the coffin bone and the ground. And we look at that because coffin bones themselves are different angles depending on the feet. So there's a good spacing that the foot needs for, your plantar cushion, lateral car, all your digital cushion and all that to have proper room to not be destroyed. So if you got a low palmar angle on one side, that flexor tendon that attaches to the bottom of the collarbone comes up, around your fetlock, all the way up over your hock to the muscle that drives it. Okay, if I drop that angle and I pull that tight, that pushes the hock straighter, which pushes the stifle straighter. Okay? And these horses that cannot get their hind end under them, sometimes that's what it is. That angle's dropped, and it's real easy to get that to drop. And a lot of times we don't look at it. It's hard to get people to do x-rays, lateral shots on your back end. And externally, you may have a foot that looks good, but internally, maybe not. So that's one of those deals. If I've got an offset angle in the back end, just like your club-footed horse on the front end, or high-low horse, that change, in the front end, that changes the whole setup of that shoulder. It's just we talked last week. Okay, if I got an offset palmar angle, and usually it's more in diagonals to the high-low in the front. They seem to work better if it is. If not, they tend to go sideways. But if one side is set lower, it's going to straighten out that bone column and lift that side.
So something that might be off topic here, and bear with me because, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm an idiot sometimes. Paddle foot. Is that on the back as well if something like this is happening, or is that a totally different topic?
Well, they do have versions of that on the back end. Normally you get a big swing in more than paddling out, but you do have horses that will rotate out in the back end. And a lot of times on that paddle foot, and that's a whole different deal. If they're paddling out on one side, watch that diagonal leg. It's a balancing maneuver. They'll follow it. And those horses are not tracking in a straight line.
Now, does the horse's chicken leg, like you were saying, in the back, does it connect, like, just for me, like I said, I'm the simpleton here. You said the front legs are connected straight. There's no, like, shoulder, ball, and socket. They're connected by muscles. Is the back connected the same way as the front?
Well, there is a ball and socket between the pelvis and the hind leg. They do have that connection. So that's what something about it has a loose ball and socket, and it can rotate there.
Okay.
And there's a lot of tendon ligament connections, muscle connections. There's a lot of muscle mass back there. So that between the femur and your pelvis, there's a ball and socket. So anyway, we got low palmar angle.
Right.
We may have a twist in the foot, which is identifiable, and there's a way to lay out a foot. You can actively measure a lot of that, and that's something I do teach in clinics. But when you trim a foot, I've had people, my horse has always done this and this and this and this, and it's never its whole life. And the further we push the pelvis out behind the horse, the more you'll get rotation because it tends to push back and toe out. So then because of the pressure, you start getting more of a flare, more of a push up, because there's always a push up and a pull, or a pull out and a push up, depending on which way you want to talk about. There's diagonal pressure in the hoof when you got a flare. You start eliminating that, and the leg rotates. I had one of your wife's friends that first time I did the horse, she was talking about it always did that. And I walked back there with a pair of nippers and took the pressure off my pressure points and put the foot down, and she walks back and she's not doing it.
You're a miracle worker, Mike.
No, it's just normalizing the pressure within the hoof. Deals with the rotation. And that foot, that leg, unless you've got some extreme injuries, it can just rotate right back because it's, like I say, it's a loose ball and socket joints, tendon ligament connections. You may over time have to stretch muscles out that have been shortened because of that. But that can be rehabbed and gotten into a more normal, healthy movement pattern. When I'm looking at performance on horses, first thing I'm going to pay attention to is the back end. And, when we forget they got a back end, that's where your power comes from. That's your motor. So you got to get that working correctly. And what I'm looking for is where am I losing energy and what is efficient movement of the back end to get full force and full drive out of it with the least amount of effort for the horse.
And I say a miracle worker. The sad part is that this friend of my wife, had a farrier before you came out, and the farrier just accepted the horse. That's the natural.
That's just the way it is,
and just
There's
accepted
nothing
that.
you can do about it.
And you come in and you're like going, well, it needs this, this, and this, and then within a day or two, it's done.
Here's a bit of an issue that is out there that you can build all kinds of beautiful whatever to apply to feet until you can really take care of the odd pressures within that hoof capsule itself. It's like having a bad foundation and put a beautiful house on top of it. You're going to have problems. It's not going to work right. So an awful lot of what I do is over years, started with Gonzalez, Caldwell, and believe it or not, Ray, because I could take a rasp and bump something in the foot. Ray would feel the horse. That works, that doesn't work. And he literally really working with a blind massage therapist taught me more about this than any farrier I've ever worked with. And, you know, he really tuned me up. So, you know, the years we spent together were too short, but you couldn't replace them with anything. You know, it's like the old saddle thing. Okay, if that saddle is creating a drop in the horse's back, it's going to shove that hind end out from under it. If it shoves the hind end out from under it, we're going to start getting some rotational problems in that hind leg. We're going to then on the ground. If you had a perfectly normalized, let's call it normalized pressure. You can't put a foot on one of these deals that they just put my tires on to see where it's heavy. And you know, balance gets used to death. Let's balance this, balance that, balance this. And I don't know if anybody knows what it is some days. I don't. So we get the pressure as normalized for that foot, working with that pone column as we can before we even think about what we're putting on it.
Now, you were talking about balancing, and you also said you got new tires on your truck. Just think about it this way. You get new tires on your truck, right?
Right.
You ever seen those little lead weights that they put on the rim as they balance it? You know, there might be a 2-ounce lead weight on the right side. There might be a 3-ounce lead weight on the other side. You wouldn't do 2 ounces all the way around just because, hey, they're all tires, they're all the same.
Right, and that tends to be what happens a lot of times. Well, we did this here, we did that there. But the deal is what I want to do is get that foot where we don't really need the lead weights.
Yeah, you want.
We can go straight forward with it and go. You know, I don't want to have to, you know, manage that with waiting position of waiting, which that does happen with shoeing sometimes.
All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot more to get into. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
I had some stall outs.
That's okay.
Brain freezes up, you know, and then you got to kickstart it. I'll blame it on too many kicks in the head.
You can do that.
And some of them from horses.
And 3, according to court records, was from my wife. All right.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And if you'd like to contact Mike, the way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Fill out the little form there. If you have a question for us, make sure you put podcast in the subject line, and we'll answer your question here on the air. Make sure you put a return address, because we will send you out some magnets, some stickers, some keychains as well. And don't forget, if you'd like to have Mike speak at your event or come to your barn and do a clinic, that's great as well. Fill out that little form at the top of the same page over at equinedynamics.com. Says clinics. Fill out that as well, and Mike will get you all the information as soon as he possibly can. And over on my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Travis?
Doing well. So now we're going to talk about a case study of a horse named Tidal Wave. Now tell me about Tidal Wave, and do I need to pull up some more pictures here?
Let's pull up some more pictures.
And don't forget, every podcast we do, we have a matching video as
Not
well.
those pictures.
Hold on, guy, give me 1 sec. For every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. And you can see these videos and pictures that we're talking about them here in real time as we're talking about them here on the air. So give it 1 second to load. And tell us about Tidal Wave.
Let's back up.
Sure. You know, that's the hardest thing for a horse to do.
Okay, we're missing something.
Hold on.
There.
That one? Okay.
That one. That's where we start.
All right, so here we go.
Okay, right here we are looking at this horse's feet, hoofs, on the ground. And if you notice, just looking past her, you see the left side foot is close to us, and you see the back end of the right side foot. Now, those are 2 totally different feet, very different.
Now, to me, it just looks like a bad camera angle of the 2 feet.
Well, there could have been a better picture. I didn't know anything about cameras, and those pictures are some time back.
Yeah.
So the translation is a little there. But if you look at the shape of the heels from left to right of the feet.
I can see the heel closest to us has a smaller heel than the one furthest from us has a taller heel.
Much taller heel, yes. Upright foot, kind of leaning towards the clubby side. And if you look into the fetlock, look at the difference in how the fetlock is set from left to right.
Yes.
Okay. And you look at the angulation, you can't see the front of the foot, but even just the angle of the heel itself. You got it on that right side, we've got a straighter heel. So what's that start you thinking about where your horse is? High, low, whatever. Okay. Let's hit the next picture. Okay. A lot of people are going to immediately think that we need to match those feet, right?
Right.
Okay.
Oops, wrong way. Sorry.
We're not going to jump. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. If you look at the horse from the front.
Is this the same horse?
Same horse.
Okay.
Changed angle. We're facing the horse. So the right side foot would be on our left hand, which gets me backwards all the time.
It's okay. The picture of the right side of the horse's foot was the inner or the one closest to us in the last picture.
Right. Correct. Now, if you look at your fetlocks, you see the difference in the height there.
Yes.
Okay. And it was like, oh my God, her legs are different legs. But, can we measure from the fetlock to that little bony protrusion in the knee, which is also set higher, and all the way up into the chest?
So the right side of this horse, our right side of the horse is lower than the left side of the horse, is what I'm seeing. Am I seeing that correctly?
Okay. You're looking at, when you're looking straight at it, her right side is on the left.
Correct.
And if you look at that bony protrusion at the knee on that right front, it is up higher than the one on the left front, right?
Yes.
And you notice there's a developmental difference into her forearms. And if you see a little bit of her chest, there's a developmental difference there. Okay, so what a lot of people think is they just look at that. Well, we need to bring that right side down. Okay, I've gotten that plenty of times. But then, okay, let's go to the next picture. Look into her chest, right side of the chest, left side of the chest. Strong side, weak side. It's really obvious right there.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, it looks like if you were a weightlifter, it looks like
working out big on one side, not so much on the other.
Exactly.
Okay. Now I never put a horse in any of my programs unless something we could get to a reasonable amount of work, because I refuse to do that. There's plenty of horses that have been distorted to the point over the years that it's like they're past the point of us being able to help them. But these horses like this, I've taken on so many of them over the years, nothing can be done. Well, it was. So you look at that development. Okay, let's think about right there. Okay, look at that and look at the rest of the horse. Let's get the next picture. Okay, think about what the shoulder should look like. Okay.
Oh, this thing looks like a snake on the...
Oh, yeah, she's crooked. But if you look at the left shoulder, big developed shoulder, if you look at the right shoulder is the upright foot where the knee is higher, the pastern's higher, all the way up into the chest is higher, but the top of that scapula is dropped down, and if I remember, it was about 3.5 to 4 inches at that point.
Now, Mike, this is a huge difference. I'm seeing
massive difference. That's why I use her for this. Big difference. And the mane falls into that hole, like we talk about, which most of the time happens, not always. I've had horses where the mane falls to the high side, but it's rare. So that's one of those deals where you can see it out across the field. Am I looking at even or not even? Okay. There's a next shot. Okay, and even into the pelvis. Look at her diagonally. She's diagonally low. And look at the way the tail hangs. The tail does not hang in the center. It pitches out, to your right side just a little bit to the higher hip because of the that pelvis is rotated a little bit. And if you look at I don't have any hind feet pictures in this series, but this horse at this time, I used a lot of pad work. I work with horses all the time that are offset, and the more I've gotten, where I am more fine tuned I've gotten with my trims, the less I have to do pads, weights, or anything like that. At this point, that was 25 years ago, and yes, I did it with pads, but it's like Tony Gonzalez. He's the one, and Clyde Caldwell were the ones that really got me started on this path, working with uneven horses. And one of the goals was to get where you could do it without adding a lot of stuff on horse feet. Part of the problem with padding one of these horses into position, you can, but you make them work muscles they have not been working and they can't get away from it. The better you can get the feet balanced for that bone column, and they start using the leg, as the muscle develops, it will change. When the muscle develops in that weak shoulder, it opened up. We started off with a relatively thick pad. With her, she was uneven enough, that's breakfast, that, always had a little pad on her, but it wasn't anything but a light leather on at the end, for a good many years. And she did fine with it. We got her where she tracked in a straight line. She did work at some level. She was bought to be a dressage horse. She could do some lower level stuff. And I've worked on several that were to this point that we've gotten them working and doing okay. But it takes time. There's not an instant cure.
So what was the turnaround time? By the time you saw this and you started working on Tidal Wave here, what was the time where the horse was somewhat respectable as far as her movement? It was a her, female?
Is that her?
As far as getting her back to a somewhat of a balanced movement.
As far as the balanced movement, it's like Chris King. I refer to her on this many times. She's an Australian vet who worked with us when I was working for Dick Mansman. And she said on a neurological level, Chris was a bookworm, still is. On a neurological level, once you get a horse into a correct movement pattern, it takes a minimum of 6 months for the horse to reprogram on a neurological level. So if we start and we have a setback, you're kind of starting over on your 6 months. I figure. It's just like training a horse. You have a mess up, then you're doing something, repeat 50 times right, start over at 1.
Right.
That's what I was always taught when I was young, when we were starting young horses. So, it's going to vary from horse to horse. If you push these horses too fast, you can injure them once we get them moving because they've got weak muscles, and muscles can develop at one speed. Tendons can develop at another speed, which is slow right, and ligaments redevelop at a speed slower than that. So you've got to regain strength in your tendons and ligaments before, to the point they can stand the work. And the muscles will build in. And that's part of the problem with conditioning any horse is too much, too fast. We have more tendon and ligament injuries now than ever. More suspensory problems, I think most vets would tell you, that we've ever seen. And what are we asking of horses at what kind of a speed and what our expectations are? These are not sport utility vehicles or RVs or
like my new truck out there.
Your new truck or your four-wheeler or anything like that. You can't just put mud tires on it and go mudding.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we got one more little segment to get into, and then we'll let you get back to enjoying the rest of your day. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I'm sticking with it.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the farrier for the 2017 Eventing Championship. And make sure you follow us on YouTube. And the way you do that is search for Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, and also on Facebook. Mike posts a bunch of different articles up there, a very interesting read. So if you want to learn a little bit more education about your equine, make sure you follow Mike Stine over on Facebook as well. And if you have a question, make sure you get it to him. Go to equinedynamics.com, fill out the little form there, and put podcast in the subject line, and we'll send you out some free stuff as well. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing very well. Now we're going to talk about the British system, Paddock. Is it Paddock Paradise? Am I saying that correctly?
I think so. Close enough.
And what we usually call, I guess, track system here in the U.S. So let's talk about Paddock Paradise.
Well, this is one of those deals that kind of popped up some years back. Everything kind of goes in cycles, and I seem to be hearing a little more about this. Basically, if you took your paddock and you did a lot of almost cross fencing and left them open on opposite ends, where from one end of the paddock you take, acre and a half paddock and you make it a mile between the water bucket and the feed. Maybe not that much, but they have to serpentine back and forth through the different sections to get to the other end. And there's been people put rocks, they put logs down, they put sand pits, everything else, because the horse walks in different conditions. And it's to try to create your horse just on its own, putting a little more mileage in, using his body a little bit more.
Stop being lazy.
Stop being lazy. Because, you know, let's face it, they're going to go for the shortest distance to food and the shortest distance to water, and we're going to sleep, and we're going to stand under our shade tree and do what we do there.
You know, it's funny that you say that. Again, back to me bush hogging. I had to bush hog a couple of the pastures just to knock the grass down and stuff. And it's funny to see, I've almost got like this Bermuda Triangle effect on one of my pastures where they come out of the paddocks, they go right down the rail of the fence to where the other horses are in the corner. Then they cut all the way across, like you said, to the water bucket, and then come all the way back down across the field again, back to their paddocks. It's this Bermuda Triangle, and that's it. They don't
stuff disappear in there.
Yeah, because sometimes we'll put little booty socks to keep the flies off their ankles, and sometimes those will disappear out there. You know what I'm talking about? They're like a screen or something that goes around.
And you never see them again.
Never see them again unless they go out there.
It is the Bermuda Triangle.
It is, and it's weird. But they will pick the shortest path. Now, there are trees and stuff in the way,
right?
But they've literally found out the shortest path around those trees and what they don't have to move.
Sure. And most horses, people's horses, do not get enough mileage in. We're talking about fitness level with Dr. Marty. I guarantee you, you look at people who are seriously working horses and the fitness level that most people think their horse is in and the body score their horse is in. And if you bring somebody in that does a lot of that, their body scores are probably higher than they think. Their fitness level is lower than what they think. You know, that kind of reminds me that when I was working with Dr. Mansman, there was a woman that was working her horse, and it was huffing and puffing and lathered up and went through a few dressage maneuvers, and he's pretty plain spoken about that. And, you know, the woman wasn't accepting what he was saying. You know, your horse is out of shape and your horse is too heavy. Okay, how long are you in a dressage arena? For 2.5 minutes. Your horse comes out lathered up, sweating, huffing and puffing and all that in 2.5 minutes of work. Yes, it does. Why? Because my horse worked really, really, really hard. Do you play any sports? I said, yes, I play tennis. How would you feel if you were playing tennis for 2.5 minutes and you were lathered up, huffing, puffing, out of breath, couldn't work anymore?
I quit.
Oh my God, I'd be in terrible shape. He says, that's the shape your horse is in.
I quit playing tennis.
That's right. I got where I could knock a home run playing tennis every time I hit one.
It's over the wall.
Out of the park. But anyway, you know, we can condition horses to where they live to a degree. And doing this, you can create a little more condition. A lot of people that are going for keeping their horses barefoot, that seems to be a more popular thing there. And, you know, conditioning to terrain. You can condition the horse's feet for where they live. If you add in a few things, I mean, it's like going through the sand. Okay, a little bit more stress on tendon ligaments than walking on hard ground. You walking on, if they go through gravel a little bit. Now, on these ultra-thin soled horses, I wouldn't suggest putting them on gravel because you can damage, you know, working in the vet clinic, we have horses that come in that are extremely thin-soled, that have done some damage, you know, to the skyline shot of that cough bone. It's like, ooh, that doesn't look good. And it's from abusing it. So you need to get some mass down there before you put them on gravel. Now, it's just like my hands. I don't work with gloves. They're pretty calloused, and we want a calloused foot on those horses. On shod horses, you know, set up some cavalettis where they have to go over and use range of movement with shod or unshod. Work it back and forth up and down your hill where they have to go up and down the hill more to go to the water bucket.
So here's the thing that I just thought of. Now, on the property, we have 3 horses, and we have 3 huge different pastures. And believe it or not, each pasture, because of where it's located on our property, has a different condition. For example, the one that's straight out here behind the barn has nothing but weeds, and it's a hard soil. I mean, that California clay rock. Now, up in the front...
Not in California.
I'm sorry, the North Carolina clay rock. Up in the front pasture, it's nice and thick and green and lush, and it's somewhat padded. In the very back part of the property, where all the water and everything drains, tends to be a little bit loomy. So we have a habit of keeping Diego, the mare, in the back paddock. We have Diego up front in the soft grass, and then the third horse in the center pasture. So not only should we rotate these horses based on, you know, trying to save the grass up here and trying to save the grass up here, but the 3 pastures have 3 different elements as far as their footing. So this might help our horses as well, not just to change, rotate your horses based on grass, but rotating based on the condition of the soil.
Right, and in changing terrains and letting that foot feel different terrains, it helps with proprioceptor response. They feel through the bottom of their foot, proprioceptor response, their pressure sensors in the back of the frog that trigger how the muscles fire. So going in out of different terrains helps with proprioceptor response. Stepping over more logs and up and down hills and traversing the side of hills works with range of motion of the body and also a little bit of strength. Now, if you've got a horse that you're seriously working, I don't know that this would even do you that much good. I mean, yeah, it's not a bad thing to do. What I will say is people who have done this in time, a lot of them will get away from it because it's a maintenance issue, having all those partial cross fences and everything else in there. As far as if you want to mow and clean up your paddocks, is you got to work around all that.
I do have some cavalettis in the back that my wife isn't using, so I'll probably move those and put them out there in the pasture without telling her.
You may be able to lay them in the horse path area and see, just for curiosity, see if your horse will walk across them or start going around.
They'll probably go around them because they're dummies.
Well, yeah.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we'll find out what we learned today. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. And there goes the rest of our audience.
Yeah.
Because the horses are dummies.
Well, they can't help it.
Not your horses out there, people. My horses.
Or maybe they're just smart enough to keep you outsmarted.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's what it is. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. Oh, I'll only start that again. Hold on. I got so excited about talking about something else. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And make sure you follow us on YouTube. For every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. And make sure you check out those Ray Morris videos as far as him being a saddle fitter. And if you want to know anything about how your saddle should fit on the horse, the dry spots, the wet spots, the 3-finger, 2-finger rule as far as being up underneath, how much it should sit on the tree of the horse and all that terminology, which I'm just kind of spewing out from memory from listening to editing his show.
Right.
Make sure you check that out as well.
Your width of the gullet.
Yeah, width of the gullet and all the other stuff that Ray includes in that video as well. And over
your tree to the rib cage.
Over my far hand side, spitting out more knowledge than I can ever come up with, is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing all right. All right, Mike. So what did we learn today? The difference between, last week we talked about the front limbs of horses. Now we were talking about this week the hind limb of a horse.
The height of the pelvis can change with angulation of the joint flexion in the limb, and also the rotation in and out. So that's something that needs to be thought about. If you guys, oh my God, my horse has dropped off on one side. Why has he dropped off into one side? Do we have a mechanical problem with the foot? Can we normalize the pressure and get that foot to come back?
That darn chicken leg.
That chicken leg.
And the case study with a horse named Tidal Wave and all the video or all the pictures that we showed here.
When you look at the hoof and the feet don't match, find out what's going on up top. And there again, take care of that foot with that bone column. If they're that far out, matching feet on a horse like that would actually make the situation worse.
And also the British system called the Paddocks Paradise, which I'm going to take some cavalettis out there and try it and see what happens with the horse.
I think that for a real experiment, we need to do that, like all the way across your yard. Like when you walk to the barn, you have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And
are you talking about me going through it?
I was talking about you.
Me?
Yeah, you. Not the horses, you.
And there's no way I can get the four-wheeler through there. It's a straight shot from the garage to the main part of the house to the barn. It's a straight shot.
Yeah, but riding the four-wheeler is not going to fix your fitness level.
Maybe get on that bicycle, ride it around a little bit more. So change up the walking patterns as far as, like I said, I've got that Bermuda Triangle out there.
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle that eats things like your Your fly boots.
In my fly boots. All right, guys, on that note, make sure you follow us on YouTube. Search for Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Also, make sure you like and follow him also on Facebook. And if you have any questions for Mike Stine, get them on over to equinedynamics.com. Fill out the top of the form. At the top of the page is a form that says contacts. Fill that out. And if you'd like Mike to talk at your barn, your event, or any kind of social gathering that you have, fill out that clinic section, and Mike will get you scheduled in as soon as he possibly can. On that note, guys, we're going to let you get back to enjoying the rest of your day on behalf of Mike Stine over there.
Have a good one, Travis.
My name is Travis Holmes, saying see you next week.
Little cowboy,
Blammo.
close your eyes and dream. All of the doggies are in the corral. All of your work is done.
Yeah?
Just close your eyes and dream, little pal. Dream on.
What are you doing today?
Someone.
I'm getting ready to head to Mineral Springs to meet with
Hi, Lucky.
Dr. Monroe from Root.
Good night, Ned.
Good night, Ned.